I feel alone in church on a crowded day, overwhelmed by the emptiness. I don't know what to say. I look around and no one else seems to wonder or ask if what we have going on is truly our God given task. His presence we perceive, but there is nothing supernatural. Emotionalism and jubilation has turned us into a spectacle. The people scream, jump, and the preacher shouts. But God's voice is not heard. Unlike the visitors, I wonder what it's all about. We're in his house, but can hardly hear from him. The preachers believe the truth is only what they learned that the scriptures mean. They give history lessons out of the ancient texts, but nothing that shows his intentions. We miss God's context. We get loads of information of what happened back then, but Christ's promised signs and wonders don't follow in the end. I look as people bring their sick and oppressed, hoping for healing, all to return the same. Our nations are left despairing. People are looking for the answers that He alone can bring. But to search a matter out, God's people can't wait on Him. We console ourselves celebrating the glory of the past, glad for what He did for them, hopeful He will do for us. A collection of testimonies of people we did not meet, requiring faith to believe it, yet unbelievers are expected to now fall at His feet. We gather to speak and recall His awesome wonder, holding on to the past encounters of His supernatural power. No new or personal experiences of a divine nature. No wonder all we can talk about is what's contained in the letter. The book contains historical accounts over 2,000 years old in it. Somehow it's our only talking point, as if God has reached his limit. We do know what he did, he is able to do again. But when it comes to walking in that authority and power, how miserably we failed. We fail, rightly looking down on orthodox heresy and rites. But we're not far off with our dead religious exercise, singing songs about victory and overcoming. But when we face the music, our faith starts crumbling. We lose strength in distress, although we are more than conquerors. Right after we danced in the sanctuary, calling ourselves warriors. As for the natural issues of life, we're largely impractical, sitting around doing nothing and expecting miracles. To fix our relationships and finances, we call it a breakthrough, thinking it should fall from the sky or someone will bear the cost, then hand it over to you. Ecclesia has lost her mind. She doesn't know who she is. Once able to shake nations and bring leaders to their knees. She was sought for her wisdom that came only from above, and demonstrated God's wealth of revelation, power, and love. Now all she does is talk. She has no form to fight. Until a crisis hits, then she raises her head through the night. But soon, with a semblance of peace, she covers up her face. Again she goes to a state of sleep. What an utter disgrace. Ill-equipped to stand up in the world, the enemy reduced her to silence. Gates that can't hold her back has kept her from making an entrance. She tries to fill up the building like it's heaven's waiting room, shuffling people in so they can see God when their body meets its doom. Why on earth did he put us here if heaven is our home? Why will he bring us back when away with wickedness and evil he has finally done? Perhaps there is more to the story than the theology teachers told. It's time to hear what God says himself, just like Joel foretold. All people should be able to hear his words prophetically. receiving revelation in words, dreams, visions, not just theologically. Then they will know that his kingdom is more than a distant location, but a government right here and now. We're not just part of a convocation. We're here to bring to pass his desires and fulfill his will, to stand up on every mountain of influence and for him all things to fill. Instead of this, we shifted the focus to ourselves, fixated on our image and glory like Adam and Eve who fell. We failed to put his kingdom first and represent his government. Putting things in reverse, it's no wonder we're in this predicament. We use decrees and declarations like it's for our personal fulfillment, not acknowledging it for what it is, a statutory instrument. The Son of God came to give us back our clearance in the kingdom, restoring our original position with the Father and of world dominion. He gave us to rule the earth as he does above. This is why he asks us to pray first for him to get involved. The state of the affairs of the nations can only be our fault. We've neglected our post and forgotten our call. Ecclesia, you're more than a people who gather for goodness sake. Your leader's task is to equip you as kingdom workers to change the nation's fate. You're a council to form policy and reclaim lost nations for the monarchy, to bridge the gap for our fellow man and make war spiritually, meeting together regularly as his house of assembly, governmental leaders, heaven's ambassadors to this territory. We have the ability to bring real social interventions like Joseph did when with business strategy he saved the ancient nations, or like Esther who approached the king to change the laws against God's people, in positions of power creating solutions that were actually useful. God doesn't just care for souls and our eternity. He cares about life now on earth and wants men to have it more abundantly. He gets angry when his people don't carry out justice. For not moving on behalf of the disadvantaged, he warns of outer darkness. You see, my brethren, we're not to live ordinarily. We're not called to live a casual Christianity, which focuses on church attendance and singing, while spiritual and physical relief to the world we're not bringing. We're part of the king's dynasty. We're not called royal for style. But as adopted sons and daughters, we can't continue behaving like juveniles, who instead of being about the Father's business and to see his plans fulfilled, we try to use the family name to achieve our wildest dreams. For what little we do get right, we still miss the point. Let's talk about it some more, please. This poem is not to rant. Hear me out because what I've been saying is true. Search the text and you'll see this is what we're meant to do. There is more. We're not just here to convert and give moral instructions, but also to preach in all the world, the makeup or systems and institutions. Our grave mistake was to treat them as one. But brethren, there is another great commission. As I elaborate, may it open your eyes and change how you see. To know that to go to all nations and to go into all the world are not one of the same, truly. Nations from ethnos means people groups, and world from cosmos means the systems of our society. See, my friends, we were never meant to make a separate industry out of ministry. It's not something we do at certain times, it's a way of life. We are to be part of everything, but as little Christ. But we've removed ourselves from the world which the Father loves and sent us to, thinking it makes us holy when that's not the separation he asked of you. Yes, we are not to conform to their belief system and values. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be in their midst and not knowing how to step into their shoes. How can we expect to bring change when we stay away from the issues that affect mankind, only addressing them to preach and pray? Is this what godliness would look like if there was no fall? Since our only focus is soul salvation, which wouldn't be necessary at all. Do you think this detour changed the Creator's original plan? No, we'd still have life as is, but without the influence of the evil one. So blinded by religion, we've created an empty space, angry as the enemy brings bondage and havoc in the place. This moral degradation we blame on those who do not yet believe, those trapped by the wicked one, our fellow fallen man who have been deceived. The world doesn't need more church events and gospel industries. It should be true discipleship and his disciples overtaking everything in reality, and witnesses of Christ who share their personal experience, not preaching about what happened to the believers of old, then wondering why it makes no difference. In doing so, we've made outcasts of those we're meant to reach, alienated by our language and our speech. We hate the sin and love the sinner is what we like to say, but walking alongside them as Jesus did seems to us out of the way. No different from the no different from the religious people of his time, who made his loving show of grace a capital crime. To be treated as he was, we brag and even desire, not realizing it was the religious leaders and not the sinners who against Christ conspired. Haven't we been preaching another gospel, making this about redemption? Haven't we been preaching another gospel, making this all about redemption, when in fact the gospel Jesus preached was all about God's kingdom? We think washing away sins is the only reason he came to die. But there were times the disciples who preached with him heard this, their shock they couldn't hide. They were learning and teaching his words, but this they knew nothing about. Why then is this the only version of good news that comes out of our mouths? We place heavy emphasis on what Christ has already finished, not recognizing it's outer now. That was the point of his mission to begin with. Most of you have never heard it said like this, and some will disbelieve. A sad realization that causes me to grieve. Perhaps they are just as I was before this kingdom awakening. I was definitely not the same after such an enlightening. I know many won't have the perspective for my disenchantment, because they're satisfied with the empty routine and their hearts are contented to attend an event called a service in a building we call church. But surely this is not what God meant, and for the truth you must search. Tell me, in what other area of life is what we do as ministry what it means to serve? It's like we have our own language with different meanings but using the same words. Except Christianese is just a joke that we say for speaking in biblical terms and using Victorian English today. Tell me, why do we gather, the practice we shouldn't forsake? Is it really for corporate worship? But why does the scripture call it fellowship? But still there is no real community. We just gather as an audience, despite being a people of great power and influence. My wish is that we take our place to be who we're called to be. This is what the Father's heart longs for desperately. I know because he told me he is giving us time to arise by delaying the masterfully wicked plans of the Antichrist. Fellow workers, there is still a great harvest rotting in the fields. Please, church, stop hiding Stop the hiding and passive gleaning. It's time to take a stand against culture's destructive narrative, bringing heaven's way of life here and spoiling that old thief. Oh, what a day it would be when we went to our jobs as covert operatives of the kingdom from above, reporting and seeking Him to know how to avert the wickedness we uncover. And when we assemble, it's to receive our commander's strategic instructions, summoning us to our place and equipping us for the position, walking alongside him and receiving divine intelligence, calling on the captain for angelic military reinforcements, rescuing people from the depths of sinful consequences, meeting needs and helping them to escape the trap of following their senses. This is who we truly are. This is what it means to be his ecclesia. Your royalty is not to sound posh and pretty. You're diplomats dispatched to this foreign territory.